Hey, it's Noemi, and welcome to my channel, Moda Libre, where we discuss all things fashion and style, from design to sewing to my own personal journey of starting my brand and breaking into the fashion industry. So, if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, please stay tuned for more. So, for our first episode today, I'm going to be giving you a quick studio tour of my new sewing/design lab. So, I just moved into this space about 3 months ago, specifically around Christmas time. I started moving in, and since then, this place has undergone a tremendous amount of renovations. It's unbelievable. I do share the space, so I wanted to make this video not just to do a regular studio tour, but also in case any of you guys find yourself within a shared space or a smaller space. My hope is to give you tips and tricks on how to maximize a shared studio or a smaller studio. I know sometimes for creatives, it's hard to find access to studio spaces. So I really hope that this channel serves as a way to really help you make the best of it. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is a shared space. It's part sewing and design studio, part photo studio. We do shoot a lot of the marketing for my brand Moda Libre here in house. And as you can see right behind me, there is a white backdrop that we often use for photo shoots, video shoots, or just other creative projects that come along the way. So these were all different things that we needed to take into consideration when figuring out the layout of the room. So we needed to make sure that this side could be as simple as possible, and any furniture that we did have out was either collapsible or could be moved easily just so it wouldn't get in the way of any shots. So, this part of the room, I like to consider it being the drafting stage area, the first step in the design process. So, right over here is where I do all of my pattern making, my draping, and any work in relation to client customs that I might have going on at the moment. This is my new cutting table that I just got a couple weeks ago, and I did used to have a custom made table, but since moving, I did have to get rid of it because it was far too large and it was impossible to get in. I was able to find it on Facebook Marketplace for $15. I'd been on the lookout for a cutting table on Marketplace for so long that when I saw this, I knew I had to take it, even if it was a 2 hour drive. It was in great condition and overall a total steal. I always recommend checking Facebook Marketplace because you would be surprised at what you can find and at a really good price, especially when you're working within a tight budget. This table was pretty much new, in excellent condition, and I've seen the exact same table at Hobby Lobby or Wayfair for close to $200. So, again, really good deal. So I like to keep this table as clear as possible. I really try to reset it at the end of each day. The only items that I like to consistently have on here are either pattern weights or a couple of rulers. And as you can see right here, I do have these two metal heavy duty weights that I purchased off of Wawak a couple years ago. But on the other hand, I also have these heavy duty metal washers that I purchased off of Home Depot. Weights can get pretty pricey, and I personally use a lot of them. So, metal washers are affordable and they also get the job done. And right in between, I do use these glass weights that I purchased off of Amazon. They came in a pack of four, and again, really affordable. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, I do like to keep a couple of rulers on me. And in this case, it's this yardstick that I also purchased at a hardware store. I always recommend individuals to check their nearest hardware store for sewing supplies because you'd be surprised at how much you can find, and honestly, at a really good price. I would recommend checking your hardware store before any arts and crafts store. So, right over here, I like to keep my dress forms. I do have a couple. This one right here is a lot older than the other dress forms that I have, and it was actually donated to me a couple years ago. I always recommend individuals to have at least one three-quarter dress form and one full body dress form. Right to my left over here is my three-quarter female dress form that I purchased off of the shop company. It comes with collapsible shoulders and it's a size 8. And then right next to it is my full body dress form that I also purchased off of the shop company. It comes with collapsible shoulders, and this one's in a size 12. When I bought this, I decided to treat myself and I actually invested in their padding kit, which allows me to go up in sizes on either of the forms for whenever I'm dealing with a larger piece. So, right next to my dress forms is this really nice metal curtain rod. It actually came with the room, and I'm currently using it to hang all of my present day patterns. Figuring out a way to organize all of my pattern work has been a little bit challenging for me. So, for now, this just seemed like the quickest and the easiest solution. I do really like using these metal pattern hooks to hang all of my patterns. And as I mentioned earlier, anything that's on here is either a collection that I'm currently working on or present day client work. So this is probably my favorite spot in the whole room. This is my sewing slash office space. And what I did over here is I took two large desks and I joined them together to form a large L-shaped tabletop. So this desk I actually got for free. When I was driving back from my old studio, someone simply left it outside their home. So I had to take it back with me. And over here is where I do a lot of my office work, any editing, pretty much anything revolving my computer I like to do over here. And then right behind me is a large white IKEA desk that I actually got off of Facebook Marketplace as well. This is the IKEA Alex desk. Originally, they go for $200, and I believe I bought it for around 20 to 25. So I like to keep my workspace free from as many distractions as possible. As you can see, it's just my machine, a couple of sewing clips, my pencil cup, some pins, lotion because my hands get really dry after working a long day. And I do like to keep my half scale form on here. This is a project I actually made in my tailoring class, and I was really proud of it. So I like to just have it on display. And on the table, I laid this extra piece of leather I had. I just really love the color and the subtle metallic shine, and of course, the print on it. I do really enjoy a subtle, bold piece. This is my main home sewing machine. I use a Janome DC 2019. Next to my machine, I always keep a magnet piece. It just always allows me to keep all my pins, clippers, and blades in one spot without the fear of them falling on the ground. I also like to keep a bobbin case in close proximity in case I'm close to running out. I can switch the bobbin out really quick. So facing my machine, I hung up this white pegboard that I got from the Home Depot. On the left side over here, I have a lot of the main thread that I tend to use, ranging from larger serger cones to leather thread to traditional sewing thread. We did drill this wooden holder to the board, and again, I added all the colors that I tend to work within the most. Up on top, I have some Kai pinking shears, a lint roller, and an extra tracing wheel just in case. And on the right side of the board, I have all of my metal pattern making rulers. So a 90-degree ruler, a couple of grid rulers, my curve ruler, and of course my French curve. And right below, I have all of my fabric shears. I also have a pair of small basic clippers here just in case, and just regular paper cutting scissors. Right up above here, I have all of my storage cubes set and labeled with things that I might need throughout the process of creating. For example, I store elastic, trims, zippers, anything I need for corsetry, dress form accessories, and of course, my pressing tools. Up here, I also store a lot of my garment bags, tripods, and different equipment for filming, as well as my go to steamer. Right next to my sewing machine, I have my industrial sewing machine. I have the Juki DDL 8700. I've had it for about 2 years now. I actually bought this off of Facebook Marketplace in Chicago for about $700, which isn't too bad of a price for an industrial machine. It does come with a table and a lamp. I really love this machine. It's great for heavier duty projects or when you're sewing through multiple layers, which I often do. So right next to my machine, I do have these two movable carts where I keep a variety of different machine needles and hand sewing needles. On the second tier, I like to keep my pattern making tools like metal hooks, tracing paper, tracing tools, tape, and a smaller hole punch for patterns. I also like to keep some extra machine oil here, and on the bottom, I like to keep my illustration markers, extra notions, office supplies, and light bulbs for my Juki machine. On the next cart, I do have my Janome serger right on top. I like to keep it on this movable cart because I don't always use it, but it is good to have on deck. I like to have everything labeled on this cart because this is where I keep all of my extra sewing equipment. I have table clamps for when I'm cutting fabric, a drawer for extra threads. This is where I keep colored thread that I don't always use but is good to have. And then I also have a drawer for different closures, my leather tools, some extra binding, tape, more markers, etc. So we finally reached the last third of the room, which I often like to consider the storage unit area. And the reason being is because this is where I keep all of my fabric. And of course, everything has to be labeled, other than these two containers right here, where I often keep either scrap pattern paper or extra muslin that I might need just in case. We did decide to include a rod up on top to hang either past mockups or past projects that I've worked on, and of course, I cannot forget about my iron and my ironing board. And lastly are my bookshelves. So on this top one here, I do keep some extra sewing machines for whenever I do classes or workshops. I also like to keep some extra lights here for filming. And down below, I keep my grommet tool and a candle that I like to keep here just for decor. I also keep my sketchbooks, user manuals. I store some old patterns in these binders slash boxes, and these are some of my fashion slash art books that I like to keep on hand. I also have some Vogue magazines here in case I need some quick inspiration. And on the end cap, I have my rabbit, which is my heavy duty puncher for all of my patterns. Right below, I did lay another piece of leather and my sewing box where I keep my most necessary tools and things that I tend to reach for despite the project. That's about it. Thanks for tuning in with me, guys. This is my design and sewing studio and how I decided to organize it while still sharing space. My name is Noemi. This is Moda Libre, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and share for more.